Well, hello again, and welcome back to Templates for Change, Nature's Laws and Harmonies. And this is part 3, and this is to do with the law of 3, or the triad. And what is so fascinating here is that this always seems to be to do with energies in one form or another. So let's have a look at this. Now remember, the reason for looking to explore nature's laws to find out what they are at the heart of our world and universe is that if we can discover them, then we can apply them to anything else we're wishing to study, and we can use them to open up that topic, explore it further, and explain it better. So now when we're looking at the triad or the law of 3, what is fascinating here is that it always seems to be to do with energies. Now we know that this is true in our homes, isn't it? Because there are 3 polarities in our electric plugs: live, neutral, and earth. And amazingly, of course, that's exactly how it is for the whole universe too. There are just 3 polarities of energy in the universal plug as well, in the structure of what makes the universe: positive, neutral, and negative. And here's a little picture of the helium atom, which is the simplest element, which has these 3 particles. And every other particle beyond hydrogen is made up of these 3 elements, these 3 energies. So you see, when we look at nature, we're going to have to take account of these 3 natures of energy as well. Now, just to talk a bit about this universal stuff, a bit more here for geeks, when we look at the core energy structures of our universe, we find this triad of energies everywhere. We've mentioned the 3 charges: positive, neutral, negative, but we now understand there are 3 fundamental forces: the strong, the electroweak, and gravity. And what a mystery gravity is. We know what it does, but we really don't know what it is yet. And then there are atomic particles, of course, protons, neutrons, and electrons that make up that structure of the atom that we were looking at. Now, it's very easy, isn't it, to make the mistake of thinking that, well, we've only recently discovered this in the 20th or 21st century thanks to science, the development of the duality from the singularity of the Big Bang, and then the development of the triad of energies from that. But amazingly, this has been known by the human race of old. And what about this quote from the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu of 500 BC or so? The Tao generates the one generates the two generates the three, and the 3 generates all things. Well, there it is, 2,500 years ago. Fascinating, isn't it? So let's come closer to home, moving from our universe to our solar system, our sun and planet Earth. And now we can see that this same 3 core energy system is also found with the energies coming to us from our sun, because the energy from our sun has 3 systems, if you like: infrared, visible light, and ultraviolet in the energy spectrum. And it's that that's critical to life on Earth. And when we look again at the Earth, well, plants, we find that they actually need 3 kinds of foods: water, light, and nutrients. And they use that in 3 connecting wiring systems, moving energy through the plant, in and out of the plant, and that's through the roots, the trunk, and the branches. So this all again somehow to do with the 3, the system of 3, when we're looking at energies: the universe, the sun, and the earth. So just bringing some of this together and looking a bit further at examples in nature. There are loads more, but here's just some: positive, neutral, negative we've talked about, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet. But also in the rocks of the earth, there are 3 different rocks caused by three different energy systems working in the planet. One is volcanic, one is metamorphic, and the third is sedimentary. And soils that result from various interactions on our planet have three types, three different natures: clay, silt, and sand. And as we've noted, the plant system, the plant structure, has branches, stem and trunk, and roots. There are lots of examples, but that's just some examples to get things going. And when we come into the human system and we're looking at energies, well, isn't it fascinating that we now know that we need three main energy systems for food? That's carbohydrate, fat, and protein. Now, of course, we need trace elements and vitamins, but these are the main three energy foods that we need. Now, of course, we're still debating exactly how much we need of each, but those three are always in play. And it's also quite remarkable, if you explore further, just to see how this triad of energies is found in other systems in our cells. For example, in our nerves, our muscles, and our skin, as well as our food. And we're just going to have a look at this further. So here are some examples. We'll scan through these charts without exploring them in detail, but you can please explore in your own time and study this further if you're interested. Again, we have the basic structure of energy: positive, neutral, negative, and then we have the muscle energy systems in the human body, which only use either phosphate, glucose, or oxygen for their energy. And then we have the nervous energy system in our nerves, which has motor nerves, relay connect, or sensory. The food energies, which we've already noticed as well. Now, again, isn't it interesting that when you go back into traditions, spiritual traditions and healing traditions, for example, the Ayurveda traditions of the Indian subcontinent and that part of the world, they had this same kind of knowledge 3,000 years ago or more. And they saw these three different kinds of energy, the life energies, as either pitta, vata, or kapha. But they understood, again, there were three kinds of life energy that were needed. So let's just have a further look at the world around us, the world we live in, because we're very much aware, aren't we, of the influence here of three major systems. Of course, our Earth, the one we live on, but also the sun and the moon, and they form a kind of triad. Now, we know the energy of the sun is critical, the sunlight. Without it, we wouldn't be able to live. There'd be no life on Earth. And the moon, while more subtle perhaps, we also understand still affects the growing cycles and patterns of plants too. So the sun, the earth, and the moon combined to create the energy systems which allow life to exist. In fact, it goes even a bit beyond that, because while the sun's energy is needed for life, the existence of the moon, now we understand, is critical too, because the moon has a balancing effect on the Earth-Sun system which stabilizes the planet and allows the stability that's critical for life to exist here. So the moon is as critical as the sun in its own way. And then when we look at plants, we see that plants amazingly use only three things for most of their growth: water, light, and carbon dioxide. Trace elements as well, we've noted, as for the humans, but the energy systems are water, light, and carbon dioxide, and they need this to photosynthesize the foods that they use. So just to recap a bit here on the triad of energies throughout plants and the natural world, we've already noted some of them, so just a few more examples: positive, neutral, negative, sun, planet, moon, physical, electrical, chemical. The plant systems are those three, and the photosynthesis requirements. So we're just putting those together here. And isn't it fascinating? Where energies are concerned, throughout the universe, the law of three appears fundamental. So when we're exploring something, we're exploring a subject, we're exploring an area of study, and we want to understand some of the energies that are at play, well, the core energy system, what is suggested here is that this is going to do with the law of three. There's going to be a triad of energies at play, which are going to have fundamentally a positive or a neutral or a negative aspect to them in some form or another. Okay, so we've moved from origins 2 to energies 3, and now we're going to move on from that to look at the fourfold physical cycle of growth. Okay, if you have an interest in our website, just to mention it's templatesforchange.org, and I'll be moving on now to the next part of the presentation. And just before we move on, here again is the summary of the 6 great laws of nature that we're looking at, these simple yet extraordinarily profound laws at the heart of our universe and life. We've dealt with 2 and we've been looking at 3, and these are the next 4 we're going to be dealing with. And this summary is just put here to bring back to mind the whole 6 laws that we're looking at, and in case you dropped in to read one of these laws, and you can see all the other ones set out here as a brief summary. Okay, so we'll now move on to the next law, which is going to be the fourfold cycle of growth.